The Great War, from 1914 to 1918, was a conflict of unprecedented scale. It engulfed Europe and spread to other continents. New technologies like machine guns and poison gas made warfare brutally industrial. Millions of soldiers, many of them young men, were mobilized for a war that nobody could have truly foreseen. The world watched in horror as the casualty reports mounted. Traditional warfare gave way to trench warfare, a bloody stalemate where gains were measured in yards and lives were expendable. The world had never witnessed such carnage. The staggering human cost of World War I is difficult to comprehend. Over 9 million soldiers perished on the battlefields. These men were fathers, sons, brothers, and friends. Their loss left a gaping hole in families and communities across the globe. For every soldier killed, countless others were wounded, many left with life-altering injuries. The sheer number of casualties overwhelmed medical services at the time. The world struggled to cope with the scale of the loss. Certain battles became synonymous with the horrors of World War I. Among these, Verdun and the Somme stand out as two of the most devastating and grueling confrontations in the history of warfare. The Battle of Verdun, fought in 1916, raged for over 300 days. It was a relentless struggle between French and German forces, with neither side willing to back down. It claimed the lives of an estimated 700,000 soldiers on both sides. The sheer scale of the casualties was staggering, with countless young men perishing in the trenches and on the battlefield. The battlefields of Verdun became a muddy graveyard, a testament to the futility of the fighting. The relentless artillery bombardments turned the landscape into a hellish quagmire. The Battle of the Somme, also in 1916, was another bloodbath. It was intended to be a decisive breakthrough, but instead, it became a prolonged and bloody stalemate. On the first day alone, the British Army suffered over 57,000 casualties. This day remains one of the darkest in British military history. By the battle's end, over 1 million soldiers were killed or wounded. The human cost was unimaginable, with entire communities back home devastated by the loss of their young men. The Somme became a symbol of the war's senseless brutality. The scarred landscapes and countless graves serve as a haunting reminder of the immense sacrifices made during these battles. Section 4. Scars on the Soul of Man. The psychological toll of World War I was immense. Soldiers witnessed unimaginable horrors. They endured constant shelling, machine gun fire, and the ever-present threat of death. The battlefield was a nightmarish landscape of mud, blood, and barbed wire. The threat of poison gas added another layer of terror. Soldiers had to wear gas masks, which were often uncomfortable and difficult to see through. The gas attacks left many with severe injuries and lifelong health issues. Many suffered from shell shock, now known as PTSD. This condition left them with deep psychological scars, making it difficult to return to normal life. The 1,000-yard stares captured in photographs reveal the depth of their trauma. They returned home haunted by nightmares and flashbacks. The memories of the battlefield were inescapable, and many struggled to find peace. The haunted expressions on their faces tell a story of inner turmoil. Unable to cope with civilian life, many veterans found it hard to reintegrate into society. The transition from soldier to civilian was fraught with challenges, and support systems were often inadequate. The war also had a profound impact on society. It disrupted traditional roles and expectations, leading to significant social changes. Communities were forever altered by the loss and trauma experienced during the war. It shattered the existing social order. Cities and towns lay in ruins, and the economic impact was devastating. The war left a legacy of destruction that took years to rebuild. Women took on new roles in the workforce, stepping into jobs that were previously reserved for men. This shift was a significant change in gender roles and had lasting effects on society. While their husbands, fathers, and sons were away, women proved their capability and resilience. Their contributions were crucial to the war effort and helped pave the way for future advancements in women's rights. The war forever changed the political landscape of Europe. It led to the fall of empires and the rise of new political ideologies. The power dynamics in Europe were irrevocably altered. The redrawing of national boundaries created new nations and sowed the seeds for future conflicts. The treaties signed at the end of the war aimed to bring peace but also laid the groundwork for future geopolitical tensions. Section 5. Never Again, A Hope Unfulfilled. The world vowed to never forget the lessons of World War I. The devastation and loss were etched into the collective memory of nations, and there was a fervent desire to ensure such a catastrophe would never repeat. The war to end all wars, they called it. This phrase echoed in the hearts of millions, symbolizing a hope for lasting peace and a future free from the horrors of global conflict. The League of Nations was formed with the goal of preventing future conflicts. It was an ambitious endeavor, aiming to foster diplomacy and resolve disputes through dialogue rather than warfare. But the peace was short-lived. Despite the initial optimism, the world soon found itself grappling with political and economic turmoil. The Treaty of Versailles, which officially ended the war, imposed harsh penalties on Germany. These punitive measures sowed seeds of resentment and economic hardship. This resentment and economic instability contributed to the rise of nationalism and fascism in the 1930s. The political landscape became increasingly volatile, setting the stage for future conflict. 20 years after the guns fell silent in 1918, the world found itself on the brink of another devastating global conflict. The promises of peace had been shattered. The hope for never again remained tragically unfulfilled. The lessons of the past were overshadowed by new waves of violence and destruction, leaving a legacy of unfulfilled dreams and broken promises.